Hey there. Before we get into Enneagram, there's one important difference I want to clear up. With cognitive functions, every human has all eight. What changes isn't whether they exist, it's how accessible they are and which ones we naturally rely on. Even if a function isn't in our conscious stack, we still experience it, sometimes even more clearly through its absence. The blind spots, the friction, the resistance. That's why cognitive functions are something we can talk about with confidence and confirm its existence. But Enneagram is different. We don't have all 9 types in the same way. Each person is organized around one specific psychological structure, a core fear, a core desire, and a coping strategy that holds their personality together, and that structure genuinely differs from person to person. Because of that, Enneagram isn't something you confirm through introspection alone. It's built through observation, recurring patterns, and listening carefully to how people describe their inner motivations. So when I use Enneagram, I'm not just speaking from personal interpretation. I have to rely on the work of people like Ichazo, Claudio Naranjo, and Heike, whose frameworks I'll be using a lot more here. Most people think the Enneagram is just 9 personality types, but that's only the surface. Each type has a core fear, a core desire, and a coping strategy, but that psychological core doesn't exist alone. It's filtered through instinct. Instinct determines how that same personality behaves in real life. So when you combine a type with a dominant instinct, you don't just get a small variation, you get a subtype. That's how the Enneagram expands from 9 types to 27 distinct, real-world expressions of personality. Self-preservation instinct focuses on survival, physical safety, comfort, stability, health, and resources. People with strong SP instincts constantly scan their environment, their body, and their practical stability. Life feels like something that needs to be maintained, protected, and kept secure. Sexual or one-to-one instinct focuses on intensity, passion, chemistry, and deep emotional bonding. These people move toward aliveness, emotional electricity, and meaningful connection. According to them, life is something that should be felt deeply, not lived passively. Social instinct focuses on belonging, tribe, shared identity, responsibility, status, and community. People with strong SO instincts think about relationships, bonds, purpose, and where they fit in the bigger picture. Safety comes through connection, loyalty, contribution, and meaningful participation in something larger than themselves. Your Enneagram type explains your psychology. Your instinct explains how that psychology expresses itself. And that's why 2 people with the same type can look completely different. Within instincts, there's also something called countertypes. A countertype is one of the 3 subtypes for a given type that doesn't match the stereotype most people associate with that type. These countertypes often look like another type because the dominant instinct clashes with the core type's typical expression, even though the motivation is still the same. That's why someone who doesn't resemble the classic description might still be that type under the surface. Now, there's one more important thing to understand about instincts. We all have all 3 instincts, SP, SX, and SO, but we don't use them equally. One becomes dominant, one becomes secondary, and one usually becomes neglected. That instinct stack is what creates nuance, variety, and depth in the Enneagram. Instinct is also not the same thing as introversion or extroversion. Social dominant people may look extroverted, but that doesn't always mean they are. Self-preservation dominant people may look introverted, but that doesn't automatically make them introverts either. Instinct explains what your mind prioritizes. It does not decide whether you're outgoing or reserved. Wings. Every Enneagram type sits between 2 neighboring types, and usually we lean toward one of them more than the other. So a type 2 may lean more toward 1 or toward 3. A type 6 may feel more like 5 or more like 7. This wing doesn't replace your core type, it colors it. It shapes behavior, energy, expression, and focus, while the core fear and motivation still belong to your main type. Some people rely heavily on one wing, some develop both over time. Some stay very close to their core type. So along with type and instinct, wings are another key layer explaining why people with the same Enneagram number can feel very different. Stress and growth. Every type has a stress direction, how it tends to react when pressured, overwhelmed, or emotionally threatened. And every type has a growth direction, how it develops when becoming healthier, grounded, and more integrated. So the type itself doesn't change, but its expression absolutely does. A person under stress can look very much different from that same person in a healthy state. And that's why the Enneagram isn't a static, this is who you are forever label. It's a living psychological system. Now let's move into Enneagram 1 to 9. Short, clear, grounded, and accurate. Type 1, the reformer. Ones are principled, ethical, responsible, and driven by a need for integrity. They are guided by an inner critic, striving for improvement, correctness, and moral coherence, while fearing imperfection, error, or corruption. SP1s are disciplined and controlled in life's routine. SX1s express reforming energy passionately and challenge injustices. SO1s apply principles to community, group standards, and shared responsibility. Under stress, ones typically take on traits of type 4, becoming more emotionally sensitive, frustrated, or withdrawn. In growth, they take on traits of type 7, becoming more spontaneous, joyful, and flexible. Countertype, sexual 1. This subtype's assertive engagement with their values can make them appear more like 8s or 4s because they confront injustice or emotional complexity directly. Type 2, the helper. 2s are caring, interpersonal, generous, and oriented toward connection. They give and support others to feel appreciated and secure, while fearing rejection, abandonment, or emotional unworthiness. SP2s focus on caring for others in ways that ensure their own support and safety. SX2s form intense one-to-one emotional bonds. SO2s become emotionally central figures within communities. Under stress, 2s take on traits of type 8, becoming more forceful, demanding, or controlling. In growth, they take on traits of type 4, becoming more introspective, authentic, and self-aware. Countertype, SP2s, cautious about who they bond with and appearing more dependent on practical security, sometimes mistyped as 4s or 6s. Type 3, the achiever. 3s are success-oriented, efficient, goal-driven, and focused on competence and recognition. They adapt to expectations and perform to secure approval, while fearing failure or worthlessness. SP3s are hardworking, reliable, and achievement-focused without ostentation. SX3s are charismatic and driven by relational impact. SO3s shape their achievements to fit social contexts and status. Under stress, 3s take on traits of type 9, becoming disengaged, avoidant, or apathetic. In growth, they take on traits of type 6, becoming more supportive, loyal, and grounded in real values. Countertype, SP3s, as they are often modest, security-focused, and less status-seeking, which can look more like 1s. Type 4, the individualist. 4s are emotionally deep, expressive, and identity-oriented. They seek meaning, authenticity, and emotional significance while fearing meaninglessness, emptiness, or being unnoticed. SP4s internalize emotion and suffer quietly. SX4s seek passionate connection and intensity. SO4s express uniqueness through group distinctions or role identity. Under stress, 4s take on traits of type 2, trying to secure attachment and affirmation. In growth, they take on traits of type 1, becoming more disciplined, grounded, and structured in expressing depth. Countertype, SP4s, as they appear stoic, quietly enduring, and internally strong, often mistaken for 7s or 3s. Type 5, the investigator. 5s are perceptive, analytical, innovative, and value clarity, independence, and competence. They withdraw to preserve energy and avoid intrusion, while fearing depletion, incompetence, or being overwhelmed. SP5s minimize needs to preserve resources and autonomy. SX5s form deep, intense connections with chosen individuals or ideas. SO5s contribute knowledge while maintaining emotional distance. Under stress, 5s take on traits of type 7, becoming scattered, restless, and impulsive. In growth, they take on traits of type 8, becoming more assertive, engaged, and confident in acting on what they know. Countertype, sexual 5, as they are emotionally expressive and relationship-focused, sometimes mistaken for 4s. Type 6, the loyalist. 6s are security-oriented, loyal, responsible, and vigilant. They prepare for risks, seek stability, and trustworthy alliances, while fearing betrayal, chaos, or abandonment. SP6s protect themselves by building security and caution. SX6s confront fear directly and assertively. SO6s find safety through community, structure, and group allegiance. Under stress, 6s take on traits of type 3, becoming pressured, performance-driven, or frantic. In growth, they take on traits of type 9, becoming calmer, more trusting, and self-assured. Countertype, sexual 6s. as they act counterphobic and face fear head-on, react assertively to threats, and can be mistaken for 8s. Type 7, the enthusiast. 7s are energetic, optimistic, curious, and pursue possibilities in variety. They stay mentally and experientially engaged to avoid feeling limited, stuck, or in discomfort. SP7s build comfortable, pleasurable worlds. SX7s pursue intense emotional experiences. SO7s use social energy to create shared excitement. Under stress, 7s take on traits of Type 1, becoming critical, rigid, and pressured. In growth, they take on traits of Type 5, becoming focused, contemplative, and present. Countertype, social 7s, as they are service-oriented rather than pleasure-first mentality and are often mistaken for 2s. Type 8, the challenger. 8s are strong, decisive, autonomous, and protective. They confront reality directly, assert control over their life, and protect themselves and others while fearing weakness, vulnerability, or betrayal. SP8s are grounded, resource-focused protectors. SX8s are intense and bonded in close relationships. SO8s lead, protect, and organize group strength. Under stress, 8s take on traits of Type 5, becoming withdrawn, distant, and emotionally guarded. In growth, they take on traits of Type 2, becoming softer, compassionate, and protective in a caring way. Countertype, social 8, as they are socially engaged protectors who focus on group welfare rather than pure confrontation. Type 9, the peacemaker. 9s are calm, harmonious, supportive, and oriented toward internal peace and external stability. They avoid conflict, pressure, and disruption, while fearing disconnection, chaos, or loss of inner calm. SP9s create soothing, comfortable environments. SX9s merge deeply with close relationships. SO9s become involved in groups with quiet support. Under stress, 9s take on traits of Type 6, becoming tense, anxious, and self-doubting. In growth, they take on traits of Type 3, becoming more decisive, assertive, and self-directed. Countertype, social 9, as they are busy being a group participant and often in leadership or service roles and usually mistaken for 2s or 3s. Cognitive functions versus Enneagram. Enneagram and cognitive functions, when considered together, in order to type someone, can create a lot of confusion as some cognitive functions can mimic some Enneagram types. For example, FE can look like Type 2. FI can look like Type 4. Thinking dominance can resemble Type 5. SE can resemble Type 7. Strong T can resemble Type 8. People can confuse behavior with motivation. Cognitive functions explain how your mind processes information. Enneagram explains why you psychologically react the way you do. They influence each other, but they are not the same. So yeah, that's it, and the heart of it. Not surface behavior, real inner psychology. Thanks so much for watching. Hope this brought you some insight. See you in the next one.